for their trip, and now they're getting ready for their mission. As we mentioned before, this is a new combination.
Yes. And this combination becomes, that during the Shenzhou-12, 13, and 14 mission, we always has 2 veterans and a newcomer. But this time, we return to the configuration of 1 veteran and 2 newcomers.
Chief Commander, we are acting at the orders of Shenzhou-15 manned mission. Now we are ready. Please indicate. The crew and the member from Chinese People's Liberation Army Astronaut Corps, Taikonaut Fei Junlong, Deng Qingming, and Zhang Lu. Go. Yes, salute.
Just joining us here on CGTN, you're looking at live pictures coming out of Jiuquan in northwest China's Gansu province, where crew members of China's Shenzhou-15 mission are being seen off at a send-off ceremony there. Professor, you were talking about a new configuration, a new combination of 1 veteran plus 2 newcomers. Why the change here?
This shows that our technologies already become very, very practical. You see that in the technology verification phase, and together with the Shenzhou-14 mission, or during the first part of the construction phase, you know that we must face many challenges and many difficulties. You see, for instance, the transfer of the position of the Wentian and Mengtian module, as we have already discussed. We mainly depends on the transportation mechanism. It is a very specially designed robotic arm, but it is very small, only about 100 kilograms. So to use this mechanism to change the position of 2 bodies with a mass more than 20 tons, you may notice that we have never done this before. So it is really risky. Although we have backup measures, but you see that to have veterans in the crew, we are facing many of the uncertainties. We have the confidence to dealing with this kind of uncertainties and challenges with more veterans, because you know that the in-orbit environment is so different from that on the ground. So for these missions from the 2012, from the Shenzhou-12 to Shenzhou-14, we have 2 veterans.
But you know, with previous missions, we always talked about like verification process.
Exactly.
Verification of the living environment, of technologies, life support systems. It is the experience from those previous missions that has enabled maybe a shakeup of the combination of Taikonauts. As you mentioned, obviously more technological advances, more confidence in the joining of newcomers. We're looking at live pictures, obviously, of the launch tower, which is a few minutes drive away from Wentiange. We just saw the Taikonauts get on a minibus that will take them to the launch tower. This is an extremely cold night. We heard from a reporter there, minus 20 degrees centigrade. Professor, can we also briefly talk about the weather tonight? I mean, it's relatively rare to be launching a mission in this temperature.
Well, absolutely speaking, the low temperature is not good for a launch. But you see that, that is not a big problem. As your colleagues, as your reporter has already mentioned, it is almost 20 degrees Celsius below 0. But you see that we must consider this problem from the design of the spacecraft, from the design of the launch complex. So consider this condition, not only this extremely low temperature, but also extreme high temperature, and also together with the wind, the rain and the snow. We must consider about this. So the spacecraft, the Shenzhou spacecraft and the combination of the Long March 2F carrier rocket.
I think we are just passing a landmark there. That's the Space Memorial tower, if I'm not mistaken.
Exactly. So you know, as you mentioned, there are from the setting off ceremony, the building Wentienge to the
Look
launch
how
tower.
beautiful that is. It's a cold night,
Yes,
no doubt,
yes.
but so many people are lining the street there. And this tower standing 31.5 meters high with 3 sharp peaks pointing directly to the sky. The entire memorial tower looks like the Chinese character zhong, or multitude. What that stands for is that China's aerospace industry is fully supported by the multitude. Obviously, evidence there by the people lining up the street, braving the cold tonight to send off the 3 Taikonauts.
Yes, exactly. And I've been there 3 years before. You know that in summer, the sky of the Jiuquan Satellite Launch Center is very, very clear. You can see the Milky Way there, very, very clear. It is a very beautiful place.
Amazing. Yeah, they're obviously being escorted by a motorcade. It's a few minutes drive from Wentienge, where we just saw the send-off ceremony, to the launch tower.
Yes.
People obviously staging some performances as part of their send-off, so they're not just lining up the streets as spectators to watch. They're staging performances to wish the astronauts good luck. This is an important mission, as we've been discussing here in the studio, the last manned mission before China officially completes the construction of its own space station. They will be tasked, as Professor Yang mentioned just now, a multitude of tasks to verify further many of the technologies, scientific experiments, and in-orbit maneuvers and operations once they get up there.
And you know, that's as you mentioned, we are now heading from the Wentienge to the launch tower. It's about 7 kilometers. But you see, that's this course, we direct go there. It's quite different from that in Russia. You know that during the similar procedure, the minibus will stop, and the male astronauts will go down and pee at the wheel. So that they form this tradition. Even for the female astronauts, they will prepare their urine in a bottle and pour that urine on the wheel. So they form this very interesting procedure. You know that this comes from the first human flight of Yuri Gagarin. Because you know that during the first flight of Yuri Gagarin, just before reaching the launch tower, he just asked to go down and pee.
It's to carry on a tradition from
so,
that first mission.
So this is the good wish for luck.
Professor, help me out here. Are we approaching what is known as the Rainbow Bridge there? It does look like the motorcade is now passing. Let me make out if that's the Rainbow Bridge right there.
Well, it's from my experience, it's not very far from the base to from the satellite launch center to the launch tower. You know that usually the technicians live in the center, but we only will go conducting some tests. We will go to the area of the launch tower.
Professor, I believe an old friend of ours is also joining us on the line here through Skype, Mr. Xu Yansong, who is our veteran guest here on our special coverage here. Mr. Xu, if you can hear me, we're just talking about how exciting it is to see the motorcade make its way to the launch tower. What is going on? What is on your mind right now, Mr. Xu?
Well, I think the astronauts are ready to ascend to the tower. But these are, of course, will take a 10-minute journey of farewells, and then they will be assisted by the what we call the launching assistants. The staff will take them all the way to the top of the rocket, where they will be slide in with the plate, as every time did. As Professor Yang also mentioned, 1 veteran, 2 newcomers. But don't forget that there are 3 more astronauts that are in the Tiangong already. So they will be joining them with 6 crews. I think this will be also a 6 to 7 hour quick rendezvous and docking. So they are expected to be arriving very soon to the station.
What a historic moment when that happens. You know, 6 crew members handover inside the China space station. What will you be looking out for when that happens, Professor Yang?
Well, honestly speaking, for other countries, they happened in 1980s. You know that during the operation of the Mir space station, just the in-orbit orbital handover were achieved by the Soyuz crewed spacecraft. You know, this is really necessary. As we've already discussed, you know, we are conducting so many very complicated scientific research experiments in outer space. And you know that in fact, many of the research cannot be finished by a single crew. So you know that the handover of these tasks will be a very inevitable task. But you know that...
what will they be doing together when the two crews meet? You mean, I was thinking that it's just going to be a very brief handover between 5 to 10 days, depending on what they need to do. But then you mentioned it is critical that they join hands together to perform certain tasks.
For instance, if you are conducting scientific research on the microgravity physics, maybe you've already done a lot of preparation works to test the facility, test the scientific research track, but probably you have not finished it. Then for the next crew, you may tell him what the progress you are. And where is the necessary devices, where is the necessary accessories. So this is a very important task for them. And also what problem he has already met and what is his consideration of how to handle this problem. So with the face-to-face communication is the most efficient way and very necessary way.
Absolutely. That's very interesting. Mr. Xu, can you also tell me your expectations for that handover inside the China space station? I mean, what will they be doing together? It's not just going to be a meet and greet, right?
Well, I think once they're docked, they will have to be a hatch opening ceremony, and people will float over to hug and greet each other. And also, I think the new crew probably brought some new fresh fruits to the 6 months already stationed astronauts. So they are expected to be very excited. I think more people in orbit would be more communications, and the 3 people cooped up there for 6 months is probably had enough of each other.
Well, I can only imagine the minute that hatch opens and they see each other face to face, it's going to be a very exciting and happy moment there. As we continue to monitor the actions in Jiuquan, the motorcade escorting the 3 Taikonauts continues to make its way to the launch site.
And you know that, as we've already mentioned, the space station is a very complex and a very huge system. We have a regenerative life support system. But for this step, you know that the more complicated it is, the more possible it will have some malfunction during the more than 10 years of operation. So you know that it is a very normal, it is a natural phenomena. But you see, to keep the normal operation or keep the security, safety of our astronauts, the astronauts on board must be aware of where what the status is and where they have some problems. So to telling the next crew these kind of things will be, you know, that quite critical for their safety for the next crew. So this is also another reason we must conducting this in-orbit handover.
Passing down their experience, the lessons they've learned.
Not only the experience. You see, for instance, maybe you have a bottle of medicine and you have already put it there, and it is also needed for the next crew. So you must tell him or her.
Yes, that's a critical part of their job, and this handover will happen with future crews also. It will be a tradition carried on from the Shenzhou-15 mission. Obviously, when they welcome their next mission, the Shenzhou-16, they will have their own handover as well. They will be passing down valuable lessons and experience from their 6-month stay in the China space station. So the plan is we will continue to have this rotation of crews every 6 months. So from this point on, it will be 6-month-long crew stays inside the China space station.
Quite right. You know, that's we've already mentioned that the Shenzhou-15 crew is the busiest crew. But one of their major tasks is unpacking. Not only the packages in the Tianzhou-5 cargo spacecraft, but also the packages in the Wentian and the Mengtian module. So the unpacking is a really tough task for all of them. And also, absolutely, they cannot accomplish all these unpacking tasks. So which package has already been opened and where it is, they must tell this to the Shenzhou-15 crew. Really necessary.
They don't have enough time to finish all the unpacking? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, exactly. You see that, for the scientific research racks, usually when it reaches into the orbit, it is not the final status, because you know that during the launch of the Long March 5B, the racks must experience the intensive vibration and also the G-forces. So usually the structure of the scientific research racks is enhanced and something is fixed. So during when they reach the orbit and when the Shenzhou-15 crew entered these modules, they must reinstall these scientific research racks. And also some of the parts, especially some spare parts, are in the packages brought by either by the Tianzhou-5 cargo spacecraft or by the module itself. So these are a lot of work they must do.
Mr. Xu, let me bring you in here. Before they get completely tired of each other, I mean, with the Shenzhou-14 crew members, they certainly have done a lot of work on a very busy and tight schedule, as Professor Yang was talking about. 3 spacewalks to begin with, space lectures,
yes,
and also scientific experiments as usual. Mr. Xu, I want to get your assessment, your take on the work of the Shenzhou-14 crew. How did they do, in your opinion?
Well, Shenzhou-14 built the station itself. I mean, the core module was launched and it was handed over to Shenzhou-14 crew. And also the Wentian and Mengtian was launched also in this duration. And the connections and rendezvous and dockings, commissioning, 3 EVAs and education and training courses, unpacking, a lot of things. I think this has been the busiest crew so far. Not only longer durations, but also the number of tasks they have in their hands, and also the expectation of the Shenzhou-15, which is also a rendezvous and gathering of 6 crews, and also they will have to have a handover of many things, scientific missions, logbooks, and the station status and everything. So they have been so far the busiest crew so far, and also we have the Liu Yang, who is also the first astronaut and their second flight to the station. And also the Fei Junlong has also been the number 2 astronauts who flew on Shenzhou-6. So all of these veterans are also gathering. So I think Shenzhou-14 has been very busy.
Yeah, I'm sure when they heard from the ground, their ground colleagues, the Shenzhou-15 colleagues are bringing them gifts. They're like, well deserved, you know, and given how tirelessly we've worked on this mission, you better bring us some gifts. And we are very curious about what those gifts are. We should find out together. And it looks like the motorcade is pulling into the launch site there. It's a short drive from Wentiangge, where that send-off ceremony was held just moments ago. Look how beautiful that is. The launch tower is standing in a very cold night, nevertheless. Mr. Xu, can I also briefly ask you about the weather conditions? I mean, low temperature was not ideal, but Professor Yang said it's not going to be a huge problem. What are some of the challenges posed by low temperatures in terms of the launch itself?
Well, I think the biggest challenge, of course, is the safety of the rocket itself, the fueling and the unlocking of the whole rocket, including all the connections, all the pipes. So the low temperature pose some threat to the operation, and in particular the personnel that is around the rocket. But the rocket is built for rigid conditions, because the rocket has to go through the atmosphere and also go to outer space. So the rocket itself should be very solid. But the preparation may be a little bit challenge for the crew itself, and also for the people who's around the rocket.
It's a solid carrier rocket and also time-tested rocket in terms of sending manned missions. The Long March 2F carrier rocket has been consistently used with China's manned missions. Professor Yang, can you talk to us about this carrier rocket and how solid it is, how trusted it is for missions like this?
Well, that's the rudiment of the Long March 2F is Long March 2E. It is the first launch vehicle in China which have strap-on boosters.
The astronauts have arrived at the launch site.
Exactly. They've already reached the launch complex. So they will use the elevator to reach the 9th floor.
The 9th floor, that's always the floor.
Yeah. Because that the hatch on the side of the payload fairing is at the 9th floor.
They will be taken to the 9th floor. I understand there will be escorts helping them through this process.
Exactly. Actually speaking, as Yan Song has already mentioned, they will be taken good care by the crew of the astronaut system. For instance, some will monitoring their health status, and some will support them to assist them to go inside the cabin. You can see that the elevator is moving. And you may notice with this launch complex, we can, with the rotational platforms, we can form a closed envelope for the combination of the launch vehicle and the spacecraft. So this can keep the temperature to a comfortable level.
Well, we do want to also check in with our reporter, Zheng Yibing, who is near the launch site as we bring you those live pictures from the launch complex there. Yibing, good evening to you. We see the Taikonauts have now arrived at the launch site. They're being carried in that lift to the 9th floor, getting ready to enter the cabins. What do you have for us, Yibing?
Well, now after the ceremony to start the space expedition of the 3 Chinese Taikonauts of the Shenzhou-15 mission, they have just arrived at the launch area here at the Jiuquan Satellite Launch Center. Usually, there will be another brief greeting by the leaders of the launch site at the launch pad over there, just 1.5 kilometers away from here. The Taikonauts would get up to the top level of the launch pad. This is a launch pad for over 100 meters. The main structure is about 75 meters, and the Long March 5 carrier rocket is really long, it's really tall. And the flight combination of the Shenzhou-15 manned spacecraft and the Long March 2F carrier rocket is standing there. For more on the situation here, we have invited a guest from the launch system. Join us now is Mr. Chen Muye, the designer of the overall system of the Long March 2F carrier rocket from China Academy of Launch Vehicle Technology. Good to see you. 陈老师你好。你好。我们有个问题啊，那么就是这个长 RF 火箭它的高度有多高呢？那么航天员那么此刻他们的状态是怎么样的？给我们大家介绍一下。
Long March 2F Y15 and how is the situation of the Taikonauts. Right now it's a 58 meters, so it's a really tall guy among all the carrier rocket families. And I believe right now the Taikonauts almost reached to the entrance, and I hope and also for sure they're in good shape. And yesterday, we know the A combination yesterday finished all the fueling work. Right now we know about that flight combination, how is the status right now? Right now, everything is in good condition, and we finished all the checkings, and all the indicators showed that right now in a good performance and ready to launch. And in June, I also participated in the launch of Shenzhou-15. I know this right after look at this. This is the backup for June mission. Anything changed after that? For this carrier rocket, actually, it's a new one. So if you compare to the Y14 carrier rocket, you could see here actually we have made 45 improvements. So a lot of the indicators are actually much stronger and reliable. And we also noticed one thing at this time, the launch is the latest one, and also in the lowest temperature. Right now the temperature is minus 16 degrees Celsius, and it's approaching to the midnight that will be below 20 degrees Celsius. So for this really cold temperature, what preparation have done to the carrier rocket? Yes, indeed, it's really freezing here, and also a big challenge to the carrier rocket. So to cope with this temperature, we have also made a lot of preparation. First of all, you look at this closed environment. We have the air conditioning to send the air to the whole situation to the complex, and we also add the heating the film. So this time we'll also make sure that the last arm will be at a later time to open. So make sure that everything is very smooth and in an orderly manner. So for this kind of the low temperature, we can see that a lot of time that we will see some the falling pieces. Actually, it's not the debris, that's the protection film. Yes, indeed, that's for us to make sure that the modules meet the launching requirements, make sure that the combination in good condition. So we talk about that to really give a lot of that the heating, that the heat, or you can consider as a down jacket to protect and keep it warm.
The chief designer from the overall planning system of the Long March 2 F-carrier rocket from China Academy of Launch Vehicle Technology. At the moment, we are counting down to the final moment of the launch moment, the ignition moment of the Shenzhou-15 flight combination with the on top of the Long March 2 F-carrier rocket. We're expecting that moment to come. Back to you.
Yibing, we are monitoring with you, and it's reassuring to know that all indicators show that things are moving smoothly. CTTN reporter Zheng Yibing near the launch site in Jiuquan. Let's also get our viewers caught up with what's been happening in the last few moments. The Taikonauts are being now seated after they've been carried to the 9th floor of the launch pad with the help of personnel from the Astronaut system. They are getting ready before they enter the capsules. Now the personnel are taking their boots off, which is a critical because they can't obviously wear their boots inside the capsule. What are they waiting for now, Professor Yang?
So you can see 3 astronauts sit on the seats, and the crew of the staff of the astronaut system are helping them to handle or changing the status of the IVA spacesuit, or the intravehicular activity spacesuit. So this suit is only used for them, very different from the EVA spacesuit. But this is also a greatly important measure to ensure the safety of our astronauts. You know that the outer space is in a vacuum condition, and the cabin or the re-entry capsule they live there is a pressurized chamber. But you know that this is still not safe enough for our astronauts. So if anything wrong happened to the pressurized chamber of the re-entry capsule, we still have another protection, the IVA spacesuit. So to checking the IVA spacesuit is very important task just before the launch. Moreover, you see that although it is only used inside the cabin, but it is also very complex. Although it is not so complex like the EVA spacesuit, but still, you know that we have the multiple layers of its clothes, and also we have the ventilation system inside the cabin, and also the oxygen supply. And the removal of the carbon dioxide. So you see that you may notice that just several years before during the early manned missions of China, usually the astronauts will grasp a small box. So that box is used for the ventilation when they are not inside the cabin. You know that when they go inside the Shenzhou spaceship, they will connect the IVA spacesuit with the cabin, with the power supply, with the oxygen supply, and ventilation. We can hear this voice is a simulation, just the last simulation of the whole system.
And Mr. Xu, I'm sure you're getting these live pictures as well. The Taikonauts are being seated. They're waiting to enter the capsule. They do seem cool, calm, collected. They've been training for this moment, not just for years, some of them for decades. 2 of them belong to China's first generation of trained astronauts, the other belonging to the 2nd generation, and now this is their moment. It will be some time before the liftoff. Talk to us, Mr. Xu, about what to expect in this window before they enter the capsule and the liftoff of the rocket.
2 hours, 15 minutes from liftoff. The astronauts arrive at the tower. They're being dressed up to their suit. Remember, and also on the right-hand side, you can see 3 cameras facing the service module and also the capsule inside. So they will be slide into the capsule. Remember, there's one key element of the whole campaign and also whole launching. Any simulation cannot be done, which is the safety sector. The astronauts has to have a backup plan at all times. For example, at the tower, they have a sliding tube all the way to the bunker. If there's a case of the rocket and the capsule, they can quickly go to the slide tube, and inside the slide tube is a piece of rubber, so that they can also have frictions, so they don't have to slide very fast. And also inside the capsule, they have escape tower. This is how they mentioned about this height of the rocket, 58.3 meters. That includes almost 10-meter long escape tower. So that escape tower can have, even you have zero velocity, you can still take off the capsule and land the capsule in safe zones. And the third stage, of course, is the once you drop the escape tower, you're in outer space. We had an accident a couple of years ago by a Russian and American who was flying the Soyuz, and they had a problem at the altitude of 110 kilometers. So, but they came back safely because they have the tower, the capsule itself can have a re-entry, also keep the astronauts safe. So all the security and safety measures are very important for the whole launching campaign.
You simply cannot be too careful with these situations because anything can go wrong theoretically. Mr. Xu, we do thank you for your time and your analysis. As always, we hope to talk to you soon on our special program here. Professor Yang, let's talk about contingency plans and plan Bs because they are so important in ensuring the safety and security of the Taikonauts here. Mr. Xu was talking about the escape tower. Of course, these plans all depend on what stage you are in during the liftoff, and they can vary from stage to stage. There's the escape tower. And what else do we know to ensure the safety of the Taikonauts?
Not only the safety of the astronauts must be ensured, but also the ground staff.
Absolutely.
You know, that's at this moment, the launch vehicle has already been fueled. The fueling position has already been completed. You know, there are more than 400 tons of propellants inside the rocket. And also, there are propellants inside the Shenzhou spaceship. You know that the software to detecting the failures will be a very critical part for what you mentioned to ensure the safety. And you are very correct. It depends on which stage it is. So at this moment, the emergency escape tower or the emergency escape system has not been validated. You know that at this moment, you know the top floor of the rotational platform is still closed. So at this moment, we cannot use the emergency escape tower to separate the Shenzhou spaceship from the carrier rocket. So only when the ground staff has already retreated, the Shenzhou-15 crew has already entered, and the hatch has already been closed. Only at this moment, we can switch on the emergency escape system, which means that with the detection of multiple sensors, we can judge the condition and have an evaluation. And based on the result of the evaluation, we can decide whether to ignite the emergency escape system or not.
So it's largely automatic depending on the sensor data. Is that what you're saying? For the emergency system to kick in, it's largely automatic. You don't need manual operations once you detect anything for that to happen?
It is, in most cases, it is in a automatic style. But you know that we are also have control panels inside our cabin, inside the re-entry capsule. And the astronauts, you may notice that they have a switch. They have a panel with buttons on it, and also they have a stick to control the control panel. So during the whole process, the astronauts can also judge the status, judge the situation with reading the data on the board. So they can also do something right with the right decision during the whole process. We should also emphasize that the emergency escape tower is only a part of the whole emergency escape system. So you know that when it is still on the launch complex and during the initial phase of ascending, we use the emergency escape tower to separate the Shenzhou spaceship from the carrier rocket. But when the altitude is high enough, we will jettison the emergency escape tower. But you know that at this moment, we still have other emergency escape engines, mainly the rocket engines, on the payload fairing. So at this moment, we can still, if anything wrong happened to the launch vehicle, we can still separate the Shenzhou spaceship from the launch vehicle itself. But after, you know, that's at a certain altitude, we will separate the payload fairing. But you know that usually in the normal case, at this moment, the first stage has already separated from the, so only the second stage remained. At this moment, if anything wrong happened to the second stage, we can use the engine on the Shenzhou spaceship to separate the two spacecraft together. So that is the difference. Oh, you can see, as Yansong has already mentioned, on the left of the screen is preparation of the 3 astronauts. So they are still, the ground staff are still helping them for the preparations. Well, on the right, you can see the cameras inside the Shenzhou spaceship. You can see in the middle.
That's the return capsule, right?
On the top is the re-entry capsule, I believe. In the middle is in the orbital module. You know that our Shenzhou spaceship adopted a 3-module design. So the astronauts will first enter the Shenzhou spaceship to the orbital module from its side hatch, because there is an interval between the side hatch and the payload fairing. And then they will go down to the re-entry capsule, because you know that the commander, Mr. Fei Jinlong, will sit in the middle. So he will be the last one entering the Shenzhou-15 spaceship.
Right, and we see the Taikonauts keep talking to each other while they wait to enter the capsule. It's a good thing that they are talking, and it you know, to keep things light, obviously. And what about all these tracking data that we keep hearing? I mean, the rocket is not even in the air yet. Why do we need all these tracking information from different locations?
Well, along its downrange trajectory, we have multiple ground stations, and also we have the Tianlian data relay satellite. So the data, the critical data of the representing the status of the Shenzhou spacecraft and the launch vehicle will be sent to these ground stations, and also with to the Tianlian data relay satellite as well. So with these all kinds of data, including the videos, we can judge the status of the carrier rocket. So we can judge whether the flight is normal or not. So this is also a very, very important measure to ensure the safety of our astronauts.
Okay, looks like the first Taikonaut is ready to enter the capsule. Can we make out who that is?
Usually this is 02 or 03. Must be Mr. Deng Qingling or Mr. Zhang Lu.
He is waving goodbye before he enters.
See you next year.
The capsule. Next year, it's a 6-month stay aboard the China space station. They will return in May 2023.
Yes. So this is a video camera mounted in the orbital module. You can see a ground staff help the astronauts go inside and then go down to the re-entry capsule.
They will slide down to the return capsule where they will be seated. As Professor Yang mentioned, the commander will be seated in the middle.
And this must be Mr. Deng Qingling or Mr. Zhang Lu.
Have they practiced this before in their training?
Quite many times.
Okay.
And you know that just last week, the Jiuquan Satellite Launch Center conducted a full-stage drill of the whole system. So that is the last rehearsal of the whole system. This is also very important.
When you say whole system, does it mean the absolute whole process, including entering the capsule, getting ready for liftoff, that whole process?
The launch site system, the rocket system, the Shenzhou space system, the astronaut system, the telemetry, telecontrol, and
the
the
second
communication
Taikonaut
system.
is
go inside.
Is going inside, is moving into position now.
Just as mentioned, you can see there is a hole on the payload fairing, and it is just close to the side hatch of the orbital module. So they will go first into the orbital module. And also, from this video, we can see with the help of the ground staff, the second astronauts go inside. And their helmet must be well protected. Because that's the hatch is very narrow, and also it's a little bit dangerous. So the helmet must be protected. And with its help, and also you can see all kinds of packages. I believe the gifts will be here.
The gifts will be wrapped and hidden in the packages.
Exactly.
We're
so that's located in this orbital module.
Absolutely. So the commander will be the last one to enter.
That with the development of technology, today our Shenzhou spaceship can upload several hundreds of cargo inside this orbital module.
I mean, can they bring just about anything? Is there, does it have to be in a certain category? Do they just bring whatever they want?
Not everything. They must consider about the safety of the whole procedure. So some personal things, some private things they can get to their cabin, but not everything.
Okay. All right. 2 of the 3 Taikonauts have now entered the return capsule. This is where they will be both during liftoff and during their return trip back to Earth.
Yes. You may notice their seat is like a basin, and this basin is shaped with certain size of the astronauts. It's specially designed and manufactured.
Okay, so it's tailor-made. It's tailor-made to suit each astronaut.
Yes, the commander will go inside.
Fei Jinlong is the veteran on this crew. He was among China's first generation of trained astronauts. He was a candidate for the first manned mission. He wasn't the first man to be launched, but then he did make a flight back in 2005 with the Shenzhou-15 mission.
And also, he is the commander of the Shenzhou-15 mission.
That's right. And now after, 17 years, he is the commander-in-chief again on this particular mission, the Shenzhou-15. What a milestone it must be for him. And a million things must be going on in his mind right now as he embarks on this new journey. He must be so proud because he gets to be on the final crew, manned crew, to witness the official completion of construction of China's own space station.
You may notice that he's just signing in the paper. So, which means that he must confirm the status of the orbital module. So that is also very important. Moreover, you see that during the Shenzhou-6 mission, Mr. Fei Jinlong is also the first one of China's astronauts entering the orbital module in orbit. You know that Mr. Yang Liwei, during the Shenzhou-15 mission, our first crewed manned mission, he only stayed in the re-entry capsule, and he never go inside the orbital module during the flight, because at that moment we have not prepared the final status of the orbital module, so he only stayed in the re-entry capsule. But during the Shenzhou-6 mission, it was the first time that Chinese astronauts go entering the orbital module during the flight. So Mr. Fei Jinlong, just last moment, he was in the orbital module, and he was also the first one of Chinese astronauts to entering the orbital module.
Professor, it's such a pleasure to have you on. We'll keep talking about this process and witness some new history being made. Thank you so much. 3 modules make up the China Space Station's basic T-shape, which was completed with the arrival of the Mengtian Lab. Let's take a closer look at this basic